Welcome, film enthusiasts from around the globe. It's another Thursday, which means it's time for Tim and Tom's Film Nights. I'm Thomas, the slightly more outgoing of the two, and today we're diving into the world of horror comedy with Keenan Ivory Wayans' 2001 film, Scary Movie 2. Now, Timothy, I know that you weren't too fond of this one when we watched it earlier, but for me, it was a rather entertaining parody of the genre. What did you think, old chap?
Well, Tom, before we start with my thoughts, let me just say that I'm quite surprised to see you using such Americanisms as old chap in your introduction. Do you plan on adopting this mannerism for the entire show? It does rather take away from your British accent, which is one of the reasons we hired you, don't you agree? Now, back to the film. Scary Movie 2, or whatever it was called, was a complete waste of my time. I found it neither scary nor particularly funny. The jokes were tired and recycled from other films, and the parody of the horror genre was more like a cheap knockoff than a genuine homage. I give it a disappointing 0 out of 10 stars.
Oh, come on, Timothy. You're such a grump. Sure, it wasn't Citizen Kane, but it was meant to be a silly parody film, not a masterpiece of cinematography. I personally found it quite enjoyable, especially the references to other horror classics like The Exorcist and Poltergeist. Plus, who doesn't love seeing the always entertaining cameo appearance by the legendary Tim Curry? I give Scary Movie 2 a generous 7 out of 10 stars. What say you, dear viewers? Do you agree with my more positive assessment, or are you more in line with Timothy's grouchy pessimism?
I suppose I can't deny the film had a few Chuck-worthy moments, Thomas. The scene where redacted spoiler impersonating redacted spoiler gets stuck in the attic was rather amusing, if a bit predictable. However, I must again emphasize my disdain for the blatant lack of creativity shown throughout the film. It felt more like they simply rehashed old jokes and gags from other films without adding any new or original material. As an avid movie enthusiast myself, I expect a little more originality from a parody film.
Well, Timothy, dear chap, I do understand your frustration with the lack of originality, but sometimes it's nice to simply sit back, relax, and enjoy a good old-fashioned parody flick. Besides, isn't that what the Scary Movie franchise has always been about? Taking known horror films and skewering them mercilessly for our twisted amusement? I mean, who doesn't giggle a bit when they see someone dressed as, redacted spoiler running around screaming like a banshee? But seriously, folks, Scary Movie 2 does have some interesting behind-the-scenes tidbits that die-hard fans of the franchise might enjoy. For example, did you know that the character of redacted character was originally supposed to be played by redacted actor-actress? However, due to scheduling conflicts, redacted actor-actress had to step in at the last minute, giving the film a bit of an unexpected twist. So, Timothy, dear chap, do you have any interesting tidbits to share about the making of Scary Movie 2?
Well, Thomas, dear chap, I must say that your taste in film is rather questionable at times. But since you've asked me about Scary Movie 2, there are indeed a few interesting behind-the-scenes tidbits that I can share with our viewers. Firstly, did you know that the infamous BT-dubbed line uttered by redacted character was actually improvised on set? Director Keenan Ivory Wayans apparently thought it was so funny that he decided to keep it in the final cut. Another interesting tidbit concerns the film's iconic opening scene, which parodies The Exorcist. It turns out that they had trouble finding a suitable location for filming until one of the crew members mentioned an abandoned church close to the set. The production team immediately scouted the location and found it to be perfect for the opening scene. However, there was one small issue. The church was reportedly haunted by a malevolent spirit that supposedly cursed both the cast and crew during filming. There were several reports of strange noises, lights flickering, and even some members of the crew claiming to have seen apparitions in the church's basement. Despite these chilling accounts, production continued without any major delays or accidents, which has only added to the film's legendary status over the years. So there you have it, Thomas, dear chap. A few interesting tidbits about Scary Movie 2 for our viewers to mull over while they watch the film again. But now I must ask you something. What do you make of Redacted director's controversial decision to cast a CG-enhanced redacted actor as redacted character in the upcoming Scary Movie 2099? Was it a bold move or a blatant disrespect to the franchise's roots?
Well, Timothy, dear chap, I must say that while I personally found Scary Movie 2's approach to be rather hit or miss, there were some moments that genuinely made me chuckle. As for Redacted director's controversial casting decision in Scary Movie 2099, I must admit, at first, I was a bit skeptical myself. But after watching the trailer and seeing how seamlessly they've integrated CG technology into the franchise's signature style of parodying horror films, I'm cautiously optimistic about the film's potential. It's refreshing to see the franchise willing to take risks and push boundaries, even if it does ruffle some feathers along the way. As for the direction itself, I thought Redacted director did a decent job of helming Scary Movie 2. While they may not have quite matched the genre-defining brilliance of their predecessor, Redacted director, they brought their own unique touch to the franchise, balancing laughs and scares in a way that was engaging and entertaining. Of course, some might argue that the film relied too heavily on cheap jump scares and gross-out humor at the expense of genuine horror, but that's always been part of the Scary Movie formula, hasn't it? It's not supposed to be a masterpiece of cinematic craftsmanship. It's meant to be an enjoyable, mindless romp through some classic horror tropes with a few laughs and jump scares along the way. So, Timothy, dear chap, do you think I've been too kind in my assessment of Scary Movie 2? Or perhaps you still stand by your original opinion that it was an unworthy addition to the franchise?
Well, Tom, dear chap, I must admit that your assessment of Scary Movie 2's directorial choices is interesting. However, let's not dwell too much on the negative aspects of this film and instead focus on the cast members who, despite the mediocre quality of the script, managed to deliver some memorable performances. Firstly, there's Redacted actress who played the role of redacted character. Her portrayal of a ditzy blonde who somehow manages to stumble into one hilarious situation after another is admittedly somewhat tired, but she still manages to elicit some chuckles with her clumsiness and naivety. Now, moving on to the male cast members, we have Redacted actor who portrays redacted character. While he does his best with the material given, his character's transformation from a timid bookworm into a muscle-bound action hero feels rather forced and unbelievable. However, there are moments when their chemistry sparks, particularly during the infamous shower scene. And who could forget about the legendary Redacted actor who plays the role of redacted character? His campy performance as a flamboyant psychiatrist is a highlight of the film, adding much needed comic relief to otherwise formulaic horror tropes. In conclusion, while Scary Movie 2 may not be a cinematic masterpiece, it does have its moments of laughter and unintentional thrills. The cast, led by Redacted actress and supported by veteran actors like Redacted actor, puts forth commendable efforts despite the mediocre writing. So, Thomas, dear chap, do you agree with my assessment of the acting performances in Scary Movie 2? Or perhaps there are some other cast members who stood out for you?
Oh, I almost forgot about the influence Scary Movie 2 had on the horror comedy genre. Timothy, dear chap, while it may not have been a critical success, it did indeed pave the way for countless parody films that followed in its wake. Take, for example, the popular slasher parody series, Hellboy, directed by Redacted director. Although the connection between Scary Movie 2 and Hellboy might not be immediately apparent, the use of self-aware humor and pop culture references can certainly be traced back to Keenan Ivory Wayans' film. In fact, many critics have argued that without Scary Movie 2, we wouldn't have had such cult classics as The Cabin in the Attic or even Redacted TV series. So while it may not be a cinematic masterpiece, its impact on the horror comedy genre is undeniable. As for other films and TV series that were influenced by Scary Movie 2 specifically, there's the Fear of Clowns franchise, directed by Redacted director. While not as well received as the original Scary Movie films, this parody series did manage to evoke some chuckles and scares alike with its blatant parody of classic horror flicks like The Shining and even the Redacted horror franchise. So, Timothy, dear chap, do you think I've covered all the major influences Scary Movie 2 had on the horror comedy genre? Or am I missing any obvious examples?
Well, Tom, dear chap, I must admit that while Scary Movie 2 may not be a cinematic masterpiece by any stretch of the imagination, it does have its moments of unintentional humor and campy fun. The cast, led by redacted actress and supported by veteran actors like redacted actor, does put forth commendable efforts despite the mediocre writing. As for the impact on the horror comedy genre, as I mentioned earlier, Scary Movie 2 paved the way for countless parody films and TV series that followed in its wake, such as the Fear of Clowns franchise, directed by Redacted director. While some may argue that it relied too heavily on cheap jump scares and gross-out humor, the film's ability to parody classic horror films like The Exorcist and Poltergeist with a tongue-in-cheek approach is commendable. So, dear viewers, what are your final thoughts on Scary Movie 2? Did you find it more of a laugh-out-loud comedy or a groan-worthy parody? Let us know in the comments section below, and remember, if you enjoyed this video, please like, subscribe, and share with your friends who love horror comedy classics. Until next time, farewell everyone, and don't let the ghosts and ghouls of Scary Movie 2 haunt your dreams.